Stephen Paul Leyva, the author of Blood is Pretty, the First Fixer Adventure, and I'm here coming at you in this digital video format because my publisher, David Niall Wilson of Crossroad Press, asked me to. He said, "Steve, talk about your book." I said, "David, I think I'd rather talk about the Battle of Hastings, which happened in 1066. But he said, "Steve, that's not really relevant to my concerns." So, him being a fairly nice guy, and by the way, besides being a publisher, is quite a fine writer himself, I've decided to acquiesce to his selfish needs, and I'll talk about my book, Blood is Pretty. Now the question is, though, how do you talk about it? And I thought, well, one thing we could do is we could test that old adage, you can't tell a book by its cover. So we're going to look at we're going to see what we can find out. Right off the bat, I see a problem. And here's the problem is the title, Blood is Pretty. Now that could be misleading because this isn't a vampire novel. It's not a vampire novel for adults, it's not a vampire novel for teenagers, and it's not even a vampire novel for little kids, toddlers and people like that may like vampire novels. Not that I have anything against vampire novels. I mean, some person may say that vampire novels suck, but that person is not me. So, maybe misleading. Blood is pretty. What exactly does that mean? I don't know. So we'll go to another part. This is in publishing genre talk. This is down here called the subtitle. This is the title. This is the subtitle. So we're going to investigate that, see if that helps us at all figure out what the heck we have here. It says The First Fixer Adventure. Right away, we have a clue. Adventure. Because indeed, the story is an adventure. But then life is an adventure, so what the hell does that tell us? I don't know. Maybe I should have called it The First Fixer Thriller, because it is also a thriller. There is action and adventure and thrills and chills, especially depending on the temperature of the room when you're reading the book. And there's fisticuffs, and there's explosions, and there's automatic weapons firing, and there's even the dismemberment of a body. Head gets chopped off, the arms, the legs, the whole bit, which leads to obviously a lot of pretty blood. So that makes it a bit of an adventure, and hopefully a thrilling one. Hopefully laced with a little bit of wit as well, a little bit of humor to take the edge off all that blood. So that tells us something. Now we go with, let's go to the first Fixer Adventure. I think that's going to indicate to us that there may indeed be a second Fixer Adventure, and indeed there is going to be one. It'll come out by Crossroad Press as well, and it's called Hollywood is an All-Volunteer Army. Remember the Hollywood part of that, because that comes in later. Okay, so we go back to the subtitle. We're getting a lot of information from this, and it says The First Fixer Adventure. I think that indicates that the Fixer, or Fixer as he may be called, might be the hero of this book, and indeed he is. He is my hero, and he's sort of a throwback, old-fashioned hero, that kind of hero. That's what I'm talking about. Larger than life. He's not riddled with psychological trauma. You see, he hasn't just come off a divorce. He's not addicted to booze or drugs or Sudoku or anything like that. He really doesn't have those kind of problems. He's not poor. In fact, he's filthy rich. This hero of mine, which is nice. Possibly that's why he's my hero. In any case, so that's what we've got here. I think the subtitle is telling us a lot. It's the first Fixer Adventure. We've got a hero, sort of old-fashioned, the kind that goes on adventures to solve a problem or to take care of a bad guy. That's pretty good. I think we're rolling along here. Now, the other thing we can tell from the book right here is that it's awfully large. This is large and inconvenient. You can't take this book to the beach. You can't take it down to the pool. This would be very hard to pack into a backpack or a briefcase or a purse or your overnight bag if you're off on a trip, on a vacation, a business trip, or anything where you might want some light entertainment to read while you're on that trip. And by the way, if you do, I do highly recommend Blood is Pretty, The First Fixer Adventure. But in any case, this is not the one you could take because it's just too damn large. But luckily, my publisher, David Niall Wilson of Crossroad Press, is bringing Blood is Pretty out as an e-book. Now, e-books are very small. E-books are, in fact, they're just a string of zeros and ones. 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1. That's all it is. And then, oddly enough, when you play it on your ebook, it appears as a whole bunch of letters, a whole bunch of copies of 26 different letters, which I have manipulated, hopefully with some skill, to be the story that is Blood is Pretty. So that's very convenient. You're going to like that. We can get rid of this. But the problem is in getting rid of this, I forgot about the most important part of judging a book by the cover, and that's called the cover blurbs. Luckily, I actually have a copy of the actual book because that was a poster. That really wasn't a book. I don't know if you really got that, but no one makes books that large unless, of course, it's an art book on Michelangelo or Norman Rockwell or somebody like that. So anyway, now we have the actual book, and on the book are cover blurbs. Cover blurbs are very important in publishing because they are comments by people who have some relationship with the content of the book and who usually always say nice things about the book. Otherwise you wouldn't put them on the cover, would you? I've been blessed to have 3 really lovely people say some very nice things about this book, especially after the checks cleared. But now that I have a small copy and you can't read it, I will read it to you if you will indulge me. The first one is by Melody Johnson Howe. Now, Melody Johnson Howe, lovely woman and a very nice writer. You should check her out on Google, H-O-W-E. She's an Edgar-nominated author of The Mother Shadow and other mystery books. She said something lovely here. She says, Stephen Paul Leyva takes a dash of James Bond, the ghost of noir, a splash of Hollywood, and stirs it into Blood is Pretty, an adventurous, fast-paced first novel. Thank you, Melanie. That was very nice. Now, there's 3 things here that we can glean from that I think you should pay attention to. There's that dash of James Bond, very important. The ghost of noir, that's lovely. And a splash of Hollywood. Hollywood is very important. You may have judged that from the title of the second Fixer adventure, Hollywood is an all-volunteer army. Hollywood will always figure into Fixer adventures. Which makes it even more pertinent that we have a blurb now from our second blurbee, as the case may be, who is Richard D. Zanuck. Now, Richard is the Academy Award-winning producer of such films as Jaws, Cocoon, Driving Miss Daisy, The Sting, Road to Perdition, and a lot of Tim Burton's films lately, including this year's Alice in Wonderland. And Richard was kind enough to say, Blood is Pretty is a wonderful read, a highly entertaining and impressive debut novel. Thank you, Richard. That's very nice. Now, the last blurb, which is not only on the back of the book, but on the front of the book, is from a young man you may have heard of, Ray Bradbury, the author of Martian Chronicles, Dandelion Wine, Fahrenheit 451. Ray said, Steve Leyva not only promises but delivers. This is a fine first novel. Bravo. Says that right there. Now that's very sweet of Ray, and I love it. In fact, to be honest with you, getting that blurb from Ray was pretty moving for me, because I'll tell you, when I was a young man, first reading a lot of books, being inspired by the writers, and finally being inspired to want to write myself, there were 3 authors that were the biggest inspirations. They included Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond novels. They included W. Somerset Maugham, probably one of the greatest English authors of the 20th century, and of course they included Ray Bradbury. Now, I never got to meet Ian Fleming or W. Somerset Maugham, but I've been very lucky to not only meet, but work with and become a friend to Ray Bradbury. Ray is one of the kindest and most generous men you'd ever want to meet, and especially kind and generous to other writers. His influence, not so much influence, but his effect on my life has been nothing but positive, and I've always struggled to find a way to thank him properly. Earlier this year, I was able to do that. I instigated and organized Ray Bradbury Week in Los Angeles, which was a week-long celebration of his 90th birthday with a lot of events, and we had a great time. And it was my hope to make that a thank you to Ray for all he's done for me. Of course, in a sense, you can never really thank Ray Bradbury enough, but at least you can try. Be that as it may, I hope a future occasion arises where I can thank you for having picked up Blood is Pretty in its new ebook configuration and given it a read. If you like audiobooks, it will soon be out as an audiobook. If you do read it and you have some comment, please send me a note through email, firstfixer@aol.com. I would love to hear from you. So I thank you for indulging me, I thank you for watching this video, and I thank you for being a reader.